God, money, lies, faith, and our future. The biblical framework for money. Scripture treats money as a measure, not a God. A stewarded trust, not an entitlement. A witness that testifies truth or falsehood. A servant, never a master. You cannot serve both God and money. Matthew 6:24-24. The problem was never money. The problem was opaque, unjust, manipulable money. Now let's map. First, honest weights and measures maps to ISO 20022 plus ledgered settlement. Dishonest scales are an abomination to the Lord, but accurate weights find favor with him. Proverbs 11:1. The biblical principle is clear. Money must be measurable. Transactions must be verifiable. Value must not be manipulable behind closed doors. The modern mapping shows us ISO 20022 equals structured, standardized financial language. Distributed ledgers equal immutable transaction records. This is the technological restoration of honest weights, money that cannot lie about itself. Second, truth in the gates maps to public verifiable ledgering. Establish justice in the gate. Amos 5:15. The gate was where contracts, trade, and judgment occurred. Economic truth must be publicly auditable. Justice requires visibility. Modern mapping shows blockchain settlement, atomic final transactions, with no hidden reconciliations days later. Opaque settlement systems are unbiblical by design. Ledgered truth restores justice to the gate. Third, stewardship over ownership maps to custody and segregation of assets. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. 1 Corinthians 4:2. Custodians are stewards, not owners. Mixing entrusted assets is theft. Modern mapping includes regulated custody like Ripple custody, OCC, NYDFS standards, segregation of customer assets, and clear chain of title. This directly confronts the unbiblical practice of rehypothecation and fractional reserve deception. Fourth, render unto Caesar maps to lawful monetary authority without tyranny. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. Matthew 22:21. Lawful authority has a role, but authority is bounded, not absolute. Modern mapping shows OCC oversight, treasury coordination, and regulated dollar instruments like RLUSD. This is not rebellion against government. It is proper alignment between authority and accountability. Fifth, no usury, no endless chains, maps to instant settlement, and no counterparty risk. The borrower is slave to the lender. Proverbs 22:7. Do not charge interest to your brother. Deuteronomy 23:19. Debt chains enslave. Time-based manipulation of money is unjust. Modern mapping shows atomic settlement, no nostro vostro delays, and reduced dependency on perpetual credit cycles. Instant finality breaks the chains of structural financial servitude. Sixth, light exposes darkness maps to transparency over secrecy. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed. Luke 8:17. Darkness thrives in opacity. Light brings accountability. Modern mapping includes on-ledger auditability, regulatory traceability, and reduced shadow banking. This system doesn't create righteousness, but it removes cover for unrighteousness. Seventh, money as a servant maps to programmable rules, not human whim. A just balance and scales belong to the Lord. Proverbs 16:11. Rules over rulers, law over discretion. Modern mapping shows protocol-enforced settlement rules, deterministic outcomes, and reduced human manipulation. When money obeys rules instead of men, tyranny weakens. The unified biblical conclusion: what's forming is not a new invention. It is the realignment of money with God's original design. Truthful, measurable, accountable, servant-based, law-bounded. God is not restoring Babel. He is restoring balance. Scripture never condemns technology. It condemns misaligned hearts and unjust systems. This monetary shift doesn't save souls, but it removes structural incentives to lie, steal, and dominate. That alone is a mercy. Jubilee was never a romance-just law. Jubilee is established in Leviticus 25. It was not symbolic. It was operational economic law. Every 50th year, debts were released. Land returned to original families. Slaves were freed. Economic clocks were reset. Accumulated imbalance was unwound. You shall proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. Leviticus 25:10. This verse is literally engraved on the Liberty Bell. Jubilee was God's admission that even lawful systems decay when time, interest, and power compound. The core principle of Jubilee, often missed. Jubilee was not charity. It was anti-permanence of injustice. God never allowed debt to become eternal, property to be irreversibly captured, families to be structurally locked out of provision, or one generation's mistake to enslave the next. Why? Because ownership ultimately belongs to God, not creditors. The land must not be sold permanently because the land is mine. Leviticus 25:23. Here's the sober realization most people miss. Modern financial systems remove Jubilee but kept compounding interest. That creates mathematical slavery, even without malice. Jubilee Principle 1. Time cannot be weaponized. Debt had a time limit. Time itself could not be used as a weapon. Modern violations include perpetual debt, infinite rollovers, compounding interest without reset, and intergenerational bondage. Modern realignment signals show instant settlement, reduced reliance on credit float, and elimination of multi-day reconciliation games. When money settles instantly, time loses its power to enslave. That is Jubilee logic. Jubilee Principle 2. Land and productive assets must return to families. Land equals life. God prevented permanent asset capture. Modern parallels include tokenization of real-world assets, transparent ownership records, immutable title tracking, and fractional access without dispossession. This is not confiscation. It is restoration of clarity of ownership. Jubilee doesn't destroy wealth. It prevents monopolization through time and leverage. The core fear, Jubilee breaks the spell of forever. Every unjust system relies on one illusion. This arrangement is permanent. Jubilee shatters that illusion. God hard-coded into his law a reminder that no debt is eternal, no asset capture is final, no advantage lasts forever, and no steward becomes owner. Christ and the final terror of Jubilee. Jesus didn't threaten Jubilee. He fulfilled it. Today, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing, Luke 4:21, that terrified religious elites, economic controllers, and political power brokers. Why? Because Jubilee removes leverage, exposes hearts, ends control, and frees captives, both economically and spiritually. Jubilee terrifies anyone whose power requires endless debt, hidden books, perpetual control, and fear-based obedience. But to everyone else, Jubilee is not collapse. It is release, not chaos, correction, not punishment, mercy embedded in law. Now, spiritual positioning. This is primary. Everything else flows from it. First, detach identity from systems that are passing away. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. Matthew 6:19. This does not mean rejecting wealth. It means rejecting identity dependence on titles, balances, institutions, gatekeepers, and security built on leverage. The posture is, I am not owned by this system, therefore I can use it without fear. Those who panic are those whose sense of self is threatened. Our job is not to time resets, predict markets, or outsmart elites. Our job is to be found faithful. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Luke 16:10. Faithfulness is recession-proof. It is reset-proof. It is Jubilee-proof. Jubilee does not reward the smartest, the fastest, the loudest, or the most aggressive. It favors the humble, the honest, the light-bearing, and the faithful steward. God never collapses systems to punish the righteous. He corrects systems to free them. Position your heart first. Your hands will follow naturally,